up, everybody? All right, y'all, I gotta do it. Let's go. Yeah, man, Cassidy out here lying. I don't like that shit. You know how I feel about niggas lying. Just gets me a certain way, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you act like I'm dumb or some shit, right? I mean, I know people lie, but I guess I'm not used to seeing it in rap, a genre that I used to think was the most honest genre ever. Let's talk about Cassidy lying out here on VladTV, right? So first and foremost, watch the interview with Vlad, actually, to get the context of where I'm going to go with this whole conversation about Cas, right? So first and foremost, he's asked to break down Drake versus Kendrick. Now, there's a couple of things that I think is funny about, like, his statement. First of all, he never actually talks about Kendrick. All he does is talking about Drake the entire time. I got notes here. He couldn't even break down Kendrick's styles. Like, he broke down saying, Drake's got a lot of styles and started talking about Drake. Then he started talking about himself. And, it's funny to me. No one cares about Kendrick. And the funny thing is that user question that was brought up, I bet you came from a Kendrick Lamar dick rider, because that's how Kendrick Lamar dick riders are. They always have Drake's name on their lips, right? It's always this weird thing about, like, you got to mention Drake so that you can position Kendrick as being the realer artist. Get the fuck out of here. Nobody remembers what the fuck Kendrick says on record. The music, it's not about the music. He's a poster boy, okay? He's living a life that you envy, right? There's a young cat who has props and accolades. He's an accolade rapper, okay? Whenever, he needs new attention or whatever, they want to, just kind of throw a little reminder out there that he still exists. They have some phony accolade or Pulitzer or whatever, so prize he just won. You don't give a shit, okay? His tour just grossed, like, the most money a rap tour has ever grossed. Wow. Who gives a fuck? I'm still not listening to your music. And in fact, most people don't really give a fuck. The casuals might listen to your shit, but in rap, the heads don't care about your music like that. We know this, right? So that's one thing I thought was really funny, But now, Cassidy says something that I think is really funny about how he's like, Drake is basically can be basic with the rhymes, but the way that Drake says it is fire. And it's like, well, yeah, that's the whole point, dummy. You're supposed to sound like fire. That is literally the most basic aspect of being a fucking rapper. If you don't sound like fire, you're not rapping. You might as well just give up. Because all the greatest rappers, whether they rhymed 1 syllable, 3 syllables, or 10 syllables, they all sounded like fire. You gotta sound like fire, or else what are you even doing? And this is where Cassidy has the problem. Cassidy doesn't sound like fire. In fact, I would argue that Cassidy never sounded like fire. And that's why, he's doing interviews. You don't really care about his music today. And again, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to the homie. I don't know him, right? It's not like a personal shot. I'm just talking as a very passionate hip hop fan, right? The fact of the matter is that Cassidy was out. He was popular at one time, but he's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things musically. Like, no one looks back on his catalog and goes, yo, you were one of them guys for real in hip hop history. He was disposable. He made instantly disposable music, and he's gone and he's out. And people don't even remember that they listened to him. That's why your newest rappers that come out the gate, who they'll pretend that they're huge Jay and Nas fans, whatever, they were probably listening to Cassidy growing up. But they don't even remember because they can't mention Cassidy's name. They don't have no clout. Anyway, so the thing that got me even wanting to respond to this shit, Cassidy said something that I was just like, no, come on, man. So Cassidy says, I never rhymed 1 syllable. I always use punchlines and metaphors, even on commercial records. Stop it. Stop lying, my nigga. Okay? You're lying. I was there. I remember. Okay? Like, let's go back to split personality and all that bullshit. Okay? Cassidy was a whole pop rapper out here. Fuck what he's trying to reestablish himself as being this bars teacher, whatever. This nigga was a whole pop rapper. Okay? That generic East Coast pop rap, that had even slight southern shit to it. That was Cassidy. Okay? So when Cassidy's talking about, bars, what bars, my nigga? You know what I'm saying? This dude had us, Hotel. I remember that shit. I was in the clubs. Hotel and Get No Better. All that was casual shit. Okay? Hotel did numbers on Billboard, right? It was aimed at the casuals. Cassidy was a pop rapper. So him trying to position himself as being this, like, you know, Mount Rushmore possible lyricist is Ludacris. He was never that. Out the gate, he was on some pop shit. Now, in fact, you look at how he was dressing, even dressing like Soulja Boy before Soulja Boy, but I digress. Cassidy to me never had bars, ever. Okay? And again, I was outside when he was a thing. Okay? Pick a song. None of them. I've never heard a bar from Cassidy that made me go, whoa. He has no bars. His shit is pretty surface level, very simple, very generic. Now, I remember when he had I'm a Hustler, which I did like, actually, and I do think it's probably his most notable song now, but it's interesting how that's the case. It's his most notable song now because it's one of the hardest songs that he ever came out with, if not the hardest, right? And that's how that shit always goes. The hardest songs, the ones that are actual hip-hop, are the ones that last the longest, but they're usually not embraced by the casuals, right? The casuals embrace, get no better, you can come to my hotel, all that goofy shit, right? That's what casuals tend to embrace, the soft shit, okay? So Cassidy had those records, those were big, okay? But I'm a Hustler was a bit of a harder kind of edge for Cassidy to a certain degree, right? But even then, what's the quotable on I'm a Hustler? I'm a hustler, homie. It's Jay. Where was Cassidy's bars in that entire song? In fact, I remember, even back then, I remember no here, but it was like, he had this like, they hating on me because I'm on the ground like I'm making love. With cops got the block hot like Jamaican clubs. I remember hating that line, even back then. And it was like, this is a garbage bar. This is lame. This is too obvious. It is too boring, too basic. It's just, I'm on the grind like I'm making love. That's terrible. I'm sorry. That's whack. And so Cassidy had these bars every now and then that was just mad basic. Even the stuff that was like, okay, for example, on Get No Better, he was saying how something like, when I look in your eye is bright or something. It's like the sunlight when I look in the sky. Okay, that's some one syllable ass shit, okay? And listen, I was in the club when that part came on, I'm with a girl, whatever, and you kind of, you rhyming along, you dance with her. It's cute, but that's not no bar, man. Like, let's be real here. You're not on that big El Jadakiss thing that you're trying to, sell to the young kids, right? The young kids, hopefully you're like, oh, they'll buy me as being this like bars rapper. You were never that, my nigga. Never. So, let me see here. And yet, even at the end of I'm a Hustler, he reused, I made it, you made a hot line, I made a hot song. Like, you're reusing bars. Again, mediocre shit. That's what a lot of mediocre niggas do. They'll reuse a bar, but won't do anything with it. The context won't be different. They won't spin it a certain way. It'll just be a straight reusal. It's boring. Now, his argument about syllables and having more syllables, and that's what separates you from the greats, or the mediocre to the greats, is a dumb argument. It's a smart dumb argument. It's actually an argument aimed at a certain type of casual, the hip-hop head casual. Because rhyming on the same way on every single song is the epitome of dumb, okay? That's not what you're supposed to do. It's boring, first and foremost. But secondly, the greatest rappers will usually flex their personalities and their style. They do have a central style, but the point is that they'll express that style in different ways over different type of beats, right? And they don't rhyme the same way on every song. You might think that Nas is rhyming the same way on every song. He's not, okay? Jay's definitely not doing that, okay? Q-Tip, Big, they were not rhyming the same on every fucking song. Okay, they just weren't. Even Jadakiss, I would argue to a certain extent, who is probably, of all the great rappers, maybe the one that you could say is the most guilty of rhyming the same on every song. I don't even think that Jada necessarily does that. But again, Jada's also fantastic at what he does. Cassidy was never fantastic at this style that he does of rapping. He was never that guy. He actually kind of always sounded to me like a Locks ripoff, actually, in the grand scheme of things. You know what I'm saying? Like a Styles, a pop version of Styles. Really? Even back then. So it's like, what are you talking about rhyming the same way every time? That's boring. And it's interesting because when I really think about this, like, this is why, to me, hip-hop, I say, kind of really died in the mid-2000s, because there was just so much whack shit everywhere. It was tons of whack shit, man. It was like whack shit out the East, whack shit out the West. It was just whack shit, whack shit, whack shit. You know what I'm saying? Like out the South. All these generic niggas just started popping out the gate. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like looking at it going, okay, you're supposed to be this great lyricist. You have these ideas. But to, you know, to keep it a buck, you can even come up with an idea. Like he was saying how like, you know, I would use like a 4-syllable word when I'm rapping. Okay, what 4-syllable word you gonna use? Couldn't even, you know, come up with it, you know, while he was thinking about it in the interview. Which tells me that he doesn't really think about it a lot anyways in his regular life. Because if he did, he would be able to just sort of come up with one off the top of his dome, right? That's what people who actually spend the time doing that kind of thing would do. So I don't really buy it. I know that he's capping like crazy. And it's annoying when niggas cap, because you're just going like, why you capping, man? Now, Cassidy to me was always basic, like I said. I will give him one thing. That freestyle that he did, that battle he did against Freeway, was his best shit. And that's because, ironically, that's when Cassidy sounded the nicest. If you go back and you listen to that shit, you'll notice that vocally, there was a way that Cass, even some of the pen, you know, a little bit was definitely sharper. But vocally, he was more expressive in a way, even though he was still on that sort of like grit shit. He just sounded grittier. And he never really captured that ever. Like, ever. Like, honestly, like, it just never happened. Like, well, again, I remember that battle in real time, and I remember being like, oh, okay, all right. Like, I'm not, like, super wowed by it. I'm more laughing at the fact that he exposed how mediocre Freeway was, because I remembered people dick riding Freeway, and I was kind of like, this guy's not that great. Like, I mean, he's not terrible, but this is not that great. And so some random guy I haven't even heard of off the street, right, it seemed to me, is coming in and eating this dude's food. Right? Again, I showed you, like, this is around that time. It wasn't so clear to me, but this is around the time when it was like, again, all these whack niggas was coming out, and I was going like, am I fucking up? Like, why? Like, I grew up on DMX and shit, and Mace and these guys who really could spit, and I must be crazy. They're telling me that these guys are the new things, and I'm listening to this shit like, this is not very good. This is boring. I must be going crazy. And then I realized it's all business. It's just friendships. You know, Cassidy was basically Swizz Beatz' man or whatever. I don't know what that relationship was. Swizz Beatz put Cassidy on. Fine. So it's just his boy. Maybe white America was accepting just about anybody that was going to rap, as long as they had a certain image they could buy into. And so it was like, oh, I'll put you on, whatever. And I think that's literally what rap turned into. Now, I will say this, though. Like, I give him credit for that freestyle because it was, like, funny in real time, and it did have a certain edge to it. But Kaz never really was able to, in my opinion, put that on record and express it in a way where I would say, yeah, that's a great song. I don't know a single great song by Cassidy. Let me say, for example, like this one, Money Money.
Yes.
This was okay. I mean, I just heard this today. Money, money, money. You know, this is all right. It even kind of has that I'm a hustler bounce to it, something that Swizz would have done around that time. Now, boring, you know? So this is kind of, Kaz was doing some harder shit here. Styles P's on the song. I think Styles still gets him on the song. And that's kind of going back even to this song, Pop the Cannon, for those of y'all who might have heard this record. You know, Styles still got him. So again, even when Cassidy tried to make harder records, which again, he's lying when he doesn't be honest about the fact that he tried to make pop records very many times and came out on some pop rap shit. Even when Cass was trying to make harder records, he still sounded weak and not really that dope. You know what I mean? Like, dudes was killing him on record, right? Like, Styles murdered him on record. Like, listen to the song Pop the Cannon. Styles got him. So, long story short, I mean, I expected from Vlad, because Vlad is the capping channel, the Culture Vulture channel. So I assume that 95% of people that come on there are capping like crazy, okay? They're there to sell an image, a gimmick, whatever, to the easily delusional. But, I mean, someone's got to say something. Be like, listen, stop it, homie. All right, peace.